Imagine this. You're scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m., and everyone's posting engagement photos, baby announcements, couple vacations. Meanwhile, you're in bed alone, wondering if there's something fundamentally broken inside you. Your friends keep saying you'll find someone when you stop looking, but deep down, you're starting to think maybe you're not wired for this whole relationship thing. And here's the plot twist: you might actually be right, but not for the reasons you think. This is called relationship contingent self-esteem, and it's the silent killer of your dating life. See, most people operate on this unspoken belief that their worth as a human being is directly tied to whether someone else validates them with romantic attention. It's like Yuri, a video game character whose health bar only refills when another player decides to team up with you. Except some people figured out a glitch in the matrix. They found the cheat code to regenerate health independently. The mechanism is actually simple evolutionary psychology gone rogue. Your brain was designed in an era where being alone literally meant death. No tribe, no protection, no reproduction, game over. So your ancestors who felt anxious about isolation survived and passed on those anxiety genes to you. Congratulations, you inherited psychological software from people who lived in caves. But here's what's different. Now you don't need a partner to survive anymore. You need Wi-Fi and an income stream. The people who stay single long-term, they've updated their internal operating system. Here's your takeaway. Your brain is running on outdated firmware that thinks it still 10,000 BC. The anxiety you feel about being single isn't wisdom, it's a false alarm from ancient code. Imagine this. You meet someone attractive at a party, and within 5 minutes, you're already calculating whether they could be the one. You're running simulations in your head about future anniversaries, imagining what your kids would look like, planning a life with someone whose last name you don't even know yet. Meanwhile, there's that one person at the party who seems perfectly content talking to everyone without any agenda, leaving at midnight alone without a single regret. You think they're commitment phobic. Plot twist, they're just not addicted to potential. This is the fantasy bonding trap, and it's basically emotional gambling. Your brain releases dopamine not when you're actually happy with someone, but when you're imagining future happiness with them. It's the same neurological pathway that makes people addicted to slot machines. You not in love with the person, you in love with the story you've written about the person. The mechanism runs on projection. See, relationships require you to constantly manage another person's emotions, expectations, and needs. That's exhausting for everyone, but most people accept it as the cost of admission. But certain people did the math and realized the fantasy is often better than the reality. Because in the fantasy, your partner never leaves dishes in the sink, never gets annoying during their sick days, never reveals that their sense of humor is actually just repeating TikTok sounds. The people who stay single aren't avoiding connection, they're avoiding the inevitable disappointment when reality collides with imagination. Here's your takeaway. Most people are in relationships with fictional characters they've superimposed onto real humans. Staying single means refusing to play that game. Imagine this. Your coupled-up friends are always complaining about their relationships. They're venting about fights, compromises, how they can't make decisions without consulting someone else first. You watch them coordinate schedules like they're planning military operations just to see a movie. They can't take a job in another city without a 3-hour discussion. They're essentially living with a permanent accountability partner they never asked for. And you're sitting there thinking, why would I voluntarily sign up for this? This is called high autonomy preference. And it's not a disorder, it's a personality trait that modern psychology keeps trying to pathologize. The mechanism is actually about locus of control. Some people are wired to feel most alive when they're steering their own ship, making unilateral decisions, not having to explain their choices to another consciousness. It's not that they can't compromise, they just don't want to. There's a massive difference. Evolution created both personality types because tribes needed some people who paired off, and some people who operated independently. Think about it, two needed the pair-bonded people to create stable family units. But you also needed the solo operators who could take risks, explore new territories, make quick decisions without group consensus. Both strategies helped the species survive. Modern society just decided one of those strategies is normal and the other is damaged. Here's your takeaway. Society keeps trying to convince you that autonomy is loneliness. But for some people, partnership is actually the cage. You're at dinner with friends, and someone asks why you're still single. You give them the socially acceptable answer about being picky or focused on your career. But the real answer, the one you'd never say out loud, is that you've looked at the relationship success rate around you, and the numbers don't justify the investment. You've watched friends lose themselves, compromise their dreams, stay in mediocre situations because relationships take work. You've done the cost-benefit analysis, and you're just not buying what they're selling. This is rational choice theory applied to romance, and it's the most taboo perspective in modern dating culture. Because we're supposed to believe love is this magical force that transcends logic, except it doesn't. The mechanism is pure economics. Relationships require enormous resource investment, time, emotional energy, money, opportunity cost. You're essentially entering a partnership where the failure rate hovers around 50%, and even the successful ones often involve people just tolerating each other after the honeymoon phase ends. Some people looked at those odds and opted out. Not because they're broken, but because they're analytical. They calculated that the dopamine hit of new relationship energy doesn't compensate for years of potential resentment, compromise, and loss of freedom. They're not romantics, they're realists with good pattern recognition. Here's your takeaway. The pressure to be in a relationship isn't about your happiness, it's about making other people feel better about their own choices. Imagine this. You're perfectly happy alone, but every family gathering becomes an intervention. Your happiness confuses people. They can't compute how you're content without a partner, so they create narratives you're damaged from past trauma. You're secretly lonely, you're going through a phase. They need you to be miserable because your contentment threatens their entire worldview. If you can be happy alone, what does that say about their need for validation? Imagine this. This is called secure solitude, and it's the final boss level of psychological development that most people never reach. The mechanism is about completing the individuation process. Most humans never fully separate from the herd mentality. They outsource their emotional regulation to other people, partners, friends, family. They need external validation to feel real. But some people finished that developmental stage. They internalized their own worth. They became their own emotional supply. It's not that they don't value connection, they just don't need it to feel whole. And that's threatening to a society that's built on codependency. Here's your takeaway. Your refusal to be unhappy alone is more disturbing to people than any actual problem you could have. The people who stay single long-term aren't the broken ones. They're the ones who debugged their psychological programming and realized the default settings weren't serving them. They're running custom firmware in a world that demands everyone use the same operating system. And society will keep pathologizing them because their existence asks an uncomfortable question. What if we've even sold a script about relationships that benefits everyone except the people actually in them?